Good morning. I say good morning to the people of the Virgin Islands. This is Adela Fonsi Donestog here with you once again this bright Monday morning. And of course, it's a beautiful day in the U.S. Virgin Islands once again. I know that many of you have seen an overcast here in the U.S. Virgin Islands for the past few days. But it seems like it's back to those sunny days once again. Before I even continue with the program as I usually do, I just wanted to recognize, say condolences to some of the families of deceased persons because, before I even continue with the program as I usually do, no one wants to lose a loved one. And in this instance, we continue to lose people over and over, and it's not a good experience at all. It's not a good feeling. And I'm quite sure it's not a good feeling for families. So I just wanted to extend condolences to those families. Julian Bernard Joseph Sr., Faye Snow, Lafiva, Rutna, Runner, I. Romney, Ashton, A.M. Smith Jr. And I have a friend in Atlanta that we actually lost his life, I guess, in a tragic car crash. And I just wanted to pay tribute to him because I understand his burial is, I believe it's tomorrow in Atlanta. His name is Willis L. Calwood Jr. For those of you that knew Willis was full of life. I know Willis from working at Bretland, and Willis sure was a salesman. And, just good at his craft. But he actually enjoyed life as well. I mean, he was just so outgoing. He was just so ambitious. And he was always, doing something or pursuing something and talking about different business ventures. And I just wanted to offer my condolences to his family. It was only a few months before I spoke to Willis, even right down to, I believe, a week before that accident, I spoke to him as well. And I just wanted to extend condolences to family and friends because he had a lot of friends, or he have a lot of friends in Atlanta. He will be sorely missed, I can tell you, because Willis sure knew how to have a good time. He was a very funny person. He was very, like I indicated earlier, outgoing. And I still can't believe that he's gone. But again, I just wanted to offer condolences to Willis' family and friends. Well, I consider myself to be a friend as well. And I just don't even know how to process it. But I can't even relate or imagine how his family is processing it at this time. But God comfort them during these trying times. Moving along, it's interesting because I believe today or tomorrow there's going to be a protest by the nurses of the Juan Luis Hospital in St. Croix. And I don't think that folks really understand with this mandatory vaccine that not everyone is going to eat it up. And, I just want to expound on it and just ask some questions this morning and perhaps try to spark some discussion this morning about just how people are processing this thing about mandatory vaccines. But let's go back a second. I can tell you, and I can share with you, I took the vaccine. I may have taken the most controversial vaccine, which is the Johnson & Johnson. And I have my reasons why I took the Johnson & Johnson. But understand that I had a choice. I had a choice to take it or not to take it. But I exercised a choice. I had an option. Either I take it or don't take it. And I repeat it again. Either I take it or don't take it. I chose and I exercised my option. It was choice to take it. Now, if you're going to have elected officials now trying to condone and support the mandatory vaccine for those that don't want to take it, I mean, we could use those words freely: freedom, liberty, choice. I'm not sure this is going to be able to sell. And there's a question that I continue to raise over and over. Does institutions have the authority and the power to impose mandatory vaccines? Because I don't believe so. Because if you think about it, it's only the United States Congress and different state assemblies or legislatures that really have the power and the authority. And that's just, in hindsight, my position that I'm sharing this morning to spark discussion. Because I'm just wondering how an institution and a VAERY can impose the vaccination and make it mandatory to persons who still want to exercise their choice. Now, I understand those that opt to take the vaccine, like myself, but I believe we have to be careful in imposing it. And you can anticipate that there's going to be a lot of court cases that are coming, because it's like a person asks a question here. If you apply for a job, and Andy, I want to thank you, Andy Spencer, that asked the question. Not ask a question, but make a statement. If you apply for a job, the job will issue a mandate for you to get vaccinated in order to get the job offer. Okay, I understand that. But what about all the employees who are actively employed that never signed on to no agreement, or it was not a condition of their employment to be vaccinated? So now are you going to say that you're going to force the new people that are applying for jobs to get a vaccination, and their liberty, freedom, and choice is removed by persons who are actively employed? I'm not sure how it works out, Andy, but I know that it's going to be an area of contention, and you can anticipate that many groups are going to take an active role or even pursue the court system to try to bring some kind of resolution. But let's go back to the imposition of mandates when it comes to giving someone, as many people call it, the jab, this vaccination without without them agreeing to have it. But you're saying that you're mandating it and forcing them to have it. And I want to be clear, and let me repeat it again. I had my vaccination. I took the Johnson & Johnson because I wanted one dose. And it's possible that we may have to go back for what is called a booster. Because I saw this Dr. Fauci talking about this repeatedly on different networks about this booster that is being recommended, and people will have to take it. But let's go to the institution, the Juan Luis Hospital on St. Croix, that they're protesting, and we're talking about nurses that don't want the jab, but they're actually protesting the dire conditions that exist there on St. Croix. No air conditioned unit, a lack of supplies, and you have to commend them, nurses and professionals that work in that institution, as well as the Royal Leicester Snyder Hospital here in St. Thomas, for them to go day in, day out, laboring, working, sacrificing themselves, and could potentially fall ill and it'd be fatal, is commendable. Because we know many of us will not just walk into danger, but that's their job, and they take their job seriously. I think that maybe we should find a different way to deal with them. Because, as I said, when we talk about liberty, freedom, and choice, we can't say that those of us that took the vaccine, that we exercised our freedom, liberty, and choice to get the vaccine, and now we're at the stage where we're mandating that people get the vaccine so they can't exercise their choice, freedom, or liberty. So that is going to be a ticklish situation there. But let me make something clear. I understand why we have gotten to the point where maybe they're saying that it's mandatory. And that's The numbers are becoming alarming. People are dying still. And we don't want people to be dying. And if a vaccination increases your chances, I don't see why you would not take advantage of it, because after all, you're not guaranteed that you will still be walking should you contract that. But then, of course, there's some alarming things about even the vaccination. That the vaccination, those who were vaccinated may be walking around and asymptomatic and could potentially spread the virus. But I leave it up to the professionals to dismiss those, those notions, because I'm not a professional and I will not venture to engage in their discipline to conclude anything. But we got to be careful with removing people's choice. And again, you got to, there's some hypocrisy here now. If you got vaccinated already, we did, because I was vaccinated. We exercised a freedom, liberty, and a choice to get vaccinated. We can't now turn around as leaders and say that the rest don't have a choice. They better get vaccinated. So we're making it mandatory. People have a right. It's a choice. And this matter is going to end up in court, folks. And I wouldn't be surprised how it evolves or what the results are. But we'll just sit back and wait and see. But folks, we had a tragic death as well. Edward Potter, who I have known for a long time. He did not get vaccinated. And it was in the newspaper. The brother of Milton Potter, Cecil Potter, who's deceased, and Asbot Potter, former lieutenant governor. And I wanted to offer my condolences publicly to that family. And, Edward was a really, really nice guy. In fact, I would go as far as to say, even if I get a little criticism from my good friends, Asbot and Milton, but Edward was the best one of the Potters. He had a wonderful personality, and I'm sure that the brothers will miss him. And I know what it is to lose a brother. So I can relate to that, and I can sympathize with losing Edward. Back to this thing on Edward, I'm sure they're using his situation, because all the brothers, according to what Asbot had shared with me, that all the brothers were vaccinated, and they were debating with Edward whether or not he would get vaccinated. Edward didn't get vaccinated, and he apparently got the COVID and was not able to withstand it, and he's now has passed. But I'll offer my condolences again, and switching back over to what I initially started out talking about, and that's the nurses who are supposed to be protesting this morning. They've worked there. They have no areas for isolation, really. And the conditions are really not conducive for providing the kind of care and the standard that they want to see in place. And people have a right to protest. People have a right to object. People have a right to their choice. So let's hope that situation is resolved, because ultimately, and the governor talking about bringing in nurses to substitute those as though you're already dismissing them, and that's not right. And we better be careful with that, because that could potentially be another matter that ends up in court. But I wish the nurses well, because I know the stress, just the exposure, the witnessing, and that's where the stress comes in, the witnessing of watching people on a bed dying, isolated. The only thing they could do is try to use a cell phone for those who could slightly breathe, because we know it's a respiratory issue, a respiratory problem that COVID patients endure, and they hope that there's enough ventilators as these numbers grow. But I wish them well. They have a right to protest, and I'm hopeful that they resolve that situation, and their demonstration tomorrow, because it's supposed to be tomorrow, that all the folks them go out and listen to what they have to say and support them, because there's three people in your life you don't mess with. I often say is your doctor, your chef, and your wife. But I like insert a nurse, because the nurse see you more than the doctor. So those are the people you don't want. So we want them to go back to work. We want them to be on the job providing that sensitive service that residents of the Virgin Islands really need. And the last thing we need is to have a void of nurses, especially when the cases are increasing. So moving on to just another subject, I was approached this weekend and a government employee posed a very important issue, and I think it was valid. It had merit. And that is the 8% that was cut from government employees. That 8% on the calculation to return it to them, what percentage would go in taxes? How do you determine the level of taxes? Because we know it's applicable, because hopefully that was a part of the income that was not taxed, because of course the salary, there had to be adjustment based on the percentage of taxes to be paid. But I would be curious to know how the calculation is taking place, and of course I'm sure that the Director of Personnel would be able to elaborate more than that. But that was a question that was posed to me this weekend, and I think government employees may be asking a question. Those of you who were affected will be asking a question in terms of the calculations and the adjustments, and hopefully you'll get an answer, because I think fair is fair. That money should not have been taken away from you in the first place. And I want to know what percentage of taxes or interest they're going to apply on the amount that they gave them back, because they have a claim there too. Because do you realize that that money could have been a portion of their salary that was in a banking institution earning interest? So you have denied them of a portion of their income that could have been placed in a savings account and earning interest. So we'll get back to that, and I'll extend the invitation to the Director of Personnel, so at least we could get into a robust conversation about that particular issue. Now, folks, everyone's complaining, and everyone has been complaining about WAPA. Yeah, we hear it day in, day out about WAPA. And I read in the newspaper this morning that there is supposed to be an investigation into WAPA's operations and decisions that were made, I guess a review of contracts and all of that stuff. And then looking at the testimony from some folks, I saw where some folks is actually saying that the $250,000 that the senator set aside for the investigation will not be suffice. It can't fix the problems. It can't. But folks, we have to realize that that's a start. There has to be a starting point on another extreme, because the variable here is that there has never really been a comprehensive review. So let's hope that all of that does not hinder WAPA's ability to reform itself or transform or transition, whatever we want to call it. We just want to see improvement, reliability, accountability, and good distribution of energy or power to our respective homes. But I want to commend the advocates, the organization that is supposed to be going before the PSC. And I want to encourage one of them to call in the head of that organization and just share with us their pursuit, their impression, and their position on whether or not they're going to support or they support that legislation that went through. And then, folks, I know businesses are grappling right now and struggling to try to survive. And I know that there's been another executive order, I believe is extension number 27, that poses or puts in place several restrictions. I was happy to hear from the Lieutenant Governor, who actually made the announcement and issued the press release. And businesses right now are trying to figure out how they will overcome, because I understand some businesses were closed down, a few businesses, and people are asking questions about the restrictions and whether or not people are being singled out and they're not going to a certain area to shut down businesses, but they're going after the small local businesses. And this is what I've been hearing repeatedly. Now, whether it's true or not true, I'm going to open up the telephone line, because I said this morning was open discussion, and someone was just trying to call. Before I could go to the phone, they hung up. But the number to call here at WSTA is 340-774-1340 here at WSTA. Crime in the Virgin Islands have gone up again. We've learned of some killings that they had from last week, and I believe as recent as a couple of days ago. I'm not sure, but the question that we're going to ask, we have a new commissioner of the police department, and I wanted to extend an invitation to him as well to talk about his transition, but also to talk about the strategy to deal with crime. And I suspect what's been looming for a long, long time. And I hope he shared this with me, and maybe the governor shares this with me, that at some point they're going to have to put some serious surveillance cameras in certain areas to make sure that they can monitor a certain activity, but not impose on people's privacy in any way. But we definitely have to come up with a plan. And I would want to ask the commissioner, what is he going to do with that strategic plan that was left behind? But let's go to the telephone line. Good morning, you're on the air. Connect the dots.
Oh, good morning, Francis. Yeah, I just want to say something. The 8% they're giving back to us. But because they took out the 8%, those of us who were laid off and then retired, we came out with 8% less in our annuity.
Yeah.
What they doing about that?
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I'm hopeful, like I indicated a little earlier, that I'm extending an invitation to the director of personnel, because those are the type of questions that need to be posed to her and for her to respond to. Because I'm sure that when them adjustments and people paychecks start coming in, a lot of questions are going to be asked. Because keep in mind that when I said adjustment on the paycheck, there is direct deposit into your bank account. So
yes,
some people may not pick up on, some people may not analyze the differential in pay that they receive and do their own calculations to determine whether or not it was adequate and it meets their expectations.
Okay. And I hope they'll explain all of that.
Well, I'll extend the invitation to I'll make sure I call the office this afternoon after I get off the air and ask her if she would be kind enough to come and enlighten us through Connect the Dots.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you have a wonderful day.
You too.
Yeah, and people have a right. Let's go to the lines again. Good morning, you're on the air, Connect the Dots.
Yes, good morning, Connect the Dots. How you doing, man?
I'm good, I'm blessed. How are you?
Good afternoon to all. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Morning.
To all. This is Clarence Payne calling.
Hey, Clarence, how are you? Senator Payne.
Man, hanging in there like you, man, if you don't mind. Yeah, the reception on Facebook coming in strong, boy.
Oh, it is?
Nice and rich. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I try, I have to depend on myself for the technology, and I have Robin here to help me out every once in a while, but here with my platform, I do everything myself, so I don't have the luxury of administration and their live feed, streaming and that stuff, but I'm happy that you called in, because I think it's so important for people to hear about the fight for a rate adjustment downwards to provide some relief to Virgin Islanders. What is the status of that claim before the PSC?
Okay, we got some good news last week. The Virgin Islands Alliance for Consumer Justice filed a motion for reconsideration about 2 weeks ago. And I think I was on air on your station and on your show.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you so much for giving us that platform to get the cry of the people out, for the people out in the community. But since that time, a lot has transpired.
Okay.
The public is really behind of our efforts, and I want to thank everybody who has done everything they can to support what we are doing, because this is the people's event. PSC has agreed to give us a date of August the 17th to hear our motion for reconsideration. And that is big. In the history of the PSC, I doubt they've ever done that, if once or twice, the most.
Yeah.
So I want to thank the people who have been working behind the scenes to get us justice in these Virgin Islands. What we filed was we used the exact verbiage that the PSC heard from WAPA when WAPA made their claim to get a rate increase. Right? That's all we did. We used their information. We didn't recreate the wheel. WAPA said on the record, we did not give the PSC any audited documentation financials since 2018. This is WAPA's own words. So after hearing that, how can we not challenge the increase? If they're telling you we ain't give you nothing, why were they giving something? You know, so that causes us as a group to say, hold up. Something wrong here. Another thing, I want you to keep this in mind, Senator. One of WAPA claim is that the price of fuel went up around the world. And I asked myself, well, let me call my sister in Florida to see if their light bill went up in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So she sent me a copy of her light bill, June 2020 and June 2021. You know their light bill ain't went up 1 penny? Now listen to that. So why is it that other jurisdictions kilowatt did not increase, but the Virgin Islands have to increase because the price of fuel went up? It didn't just go up in the Virgin Islands, Senator. It went up all over the world. So why my son light bill didn't go up in Virginia? In the same 12-month period of time, why not? Are they managed better? And if that's the case, let's find out who managing them people, get rid of the executives at WAPA, and bring in some new managers. And this is ridiculous. Every time there's a sneeze, the Virgin Islands gets pneumonia. You know, we never have anything in place to help fortify the stressful times that we go through. Never, ever, ever.
Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you a question. Because you said get rid of the administrators, but how many administrators have left within the last 8 months? You had Mr. Kupfer's left. You ended up with an interim. You had Mr. Reimer. You had Mr. Hedrington. You had, who else?
That's the only three I could think of.
Okay. I thought it was more than that had actually left. You had an attorney. The attorney that was with them had left. That's basically some kind of revamping, a purging that actually took place. But when I said purging, I mean a change that have taken place. But now you're saying that you need new or more administrators, or
not more. Now is the perfect time. Perfect time with those vacancies. Let's bring in people to replace those individuals who left, who know how to run a power utility company under the U.S. flag. Perfect time. So that we ain't got to double pay nobody. Okay? From what you just reported, there are 4 very powerful positions that might be open right now at WAPA. So let's bring in some people that's qualified to know how to run these things,
Yeah.
get to the bottom of some of this so-called corruption that's happening there, and let's do what needs to be done. Because this is ridiculous. In the middle of a fourth surge, you want to raise people like Bill?
Yeah.
And you're talking about cutting back, reducing the amount of patrons in restaurants and other social activities? Come on.
Well, I know I heard some businesses already talking about laying off employees.
Again.
Yeah. And
you should worry about your utility costs as a hindrance to your business expansion. That should be the last thing on your mind. The thing that there are states where their business light bill kilowatt is 3 and 4 cents a kilowatt. 3 and 4 cents a kilowatt. Residential 8 cents a kilowatt. 9 cents a kilowatt.
Well, I'm sure that, yeah, and I'm sure that the people here are able. A lot of people are able to make that comparison as well with other jurisdictions to see what their rates are. And I'm including Caribbean islands as well to compare the rates. But I want to take this opportunity to thank you and that organization for at least looking out for consumers and wanting, some kind of fairness. Because
you can't have the highest rates in the entire Caribbean, and then you're gonna add more on top of that.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Well, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling, Senator Payne. I'm not talking about the Senator Payne in the Senate, but former Senator Clarence Payne.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. You take care.
All right.
Thanks for calling. Yeah, you have folks out there that are going to be screaming. Could you imagine a business that is already experiencing high utility bills and bills that are exceeding even the rent that they're paying in the building, to then experience an increase on the commercial end? I just can't imagine how many of them are going to survive, and especially restaurants, because you realize how many plate of food a restaurant has to sell in order to be able to meet the obligation of paying their rent. You add to that their employees. You add to that all the associated costs with having employees. You add to that just the miscellaneous costs that they incur day to day. We got to be careful and see how we could really address this issue. Because, we've been talking about this for years, and we watch the rates climb and climb and climb. And we only could hope that they stabilize at some point, but not just stabilize, that the people at the Virgin Islands, the ratepayers, can see some type of adjustment in their phone, their light bills, that they could see that there is some kind of relief being passed on to them. But of course, that utility is going to need the appropriate resources. I'm talking about human resources and other resources in order to really be able to provide reliable energy. So going to another phone call. Good morning, you're on the air. Connect the dots.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Donnerstaff. This is Red Bailey.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. I want to share my concern with you and your audience.
Sure, go right ahead.
And it's about the water quality from the seaweed on the island.
Yeah.
How bad it is, and we're not sure how dangerous it can be. I got my boat at Sapphire, which I have to move because the quality of the water, the smell, the stink, and it's eating all the material on the boat.
Oh,
so I'm not
wow.
I'm not sure what it's doing to our health that we're breathing in all this toxic fumes. It's a matter of heavy concern, and we know it's done by Mother Nature, but the stink is awful, and the smell, and it's eating up the metal. And
oh, wow.
It doesn't have to be in the water. It could be way up high. So if it's eating the metal, what is going to do to our lungs?
Yeah, yeah.
So I wish that somebody would at least take the time and go around the island, Bavoni area, the Red Oak area, the Sapphire, which has that horseshoe bay that traps all the weed, and Margaritaville. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, now that I have you on the air, Red, I want to take this opportunity to just, commend you on being able to last in this industry so long and the type of service that you provide. And I actually have the marine industry scheduled, I think it's week after next. And I want to take this opportunity to ask you if you would consider being my guest on the air to answer some questions about the marine industry and what value you think they have when it comes to the economy and even the hospitality in the Virgin Islands. Would you be amenable to come in on the program?
Well, I don't know it all, but my years of experience, I'm more than happy to share what I know. Yeah. I don't know it all, but what I know, I'm very, very happy to share. And knowledge is to pass back, not to bury with you. So definitely yes. Okay.
And you don't have to worry about not having all the knowledge in the industry. I mean, your years of experience is the greatest, is of great value. And it's of great value to even a lot of the young people. I get so happy when I see a lot of these young men venturing to get involved in the industry now, in charter service, even fishing, and just to see how they're so enthusiastic about it. And I think that they could learn from someone like yourself that have been around here so many years and have actually witnessed the growth over the years. I'm sorry to hear what you're experiencing. That sargassum there is becoming a major hindrance, a major problem, because a lot of the guests and I could give you an example, Margaritaville. I don't know if you've been over there. I have watched those folks hire companies to come in, and thanks to them truckers and them guys bringing them bins, and clear that beach up for that sargassum again to return a few days after.
Not a few days, overnight.
Yeah. And I couldn't believe, and at some point I'm going to come out there just to get some pictures and stuff so folks could see what it looks like. And it's not about the sight only, it's the smell.
The smell and what it can do for lungs.
The smell is unbearable, and people would have to go out and witness it for themselves to understand what we're talking about. Because that stench, let me tell you something. That stench from the time I went through the gate to Margaritaville on my way to the restaurant, I could smell that stench. And it was just unbearable because it was practically burning my nose. And being the environmentalist that I am, I've always said that anything that you can smell mean that there's some kind of particles in the air. As the author of the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts, we want to see that the territory, the people's health is protected, because that's a basic human right.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'll tell you this too. I appreciate the governor because he had his foot in on the marine industry towards young people. I applaud that, and I do hope that some of his cabinet members take a close look at the marine industry. Look at the water quality. This is, I may tell you, the stink, to me, is hurting our lungs. And eventually, we're going to pay a hell of a price if we don't act yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I know there's some equipment that they have in Florida, and I think they now have it in Puerto Rico, where's the equipment that they actually would send out into the water, and it would actually pull up all that seaweed, at least the one that is floating in the water, catch it and put it into a system that ships it up and process it, and they would take that in bins off to somewhere else.
Well, from what I've seen and my experience, it's taking more than our government. We're going to need some federal assistance.
Yeah.
If we check the water and the water quality is that bad as we think it might be, we're going to need some heavy assistance.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to start appealing. Yeah, they will have to start appealing to the federal government, and in particular EPA, and see if EPA have any grants that they could afford to the U.S. Virgin Islands, because that's what I would have been doing. Tapping the EPA to see what we could potentially do in terms of a collaborative effort, because they have employees, and I'm talking about the federal government, have a lot of employees here in the Virgin Islands that frequent our beaches and try to enjoy the ambience.
Well, I don't know. You know where I used to keep my boat at Sapphire?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the boat owns the slip, and I had to move the boat from there, and they give me a temporary spot in the lagoon at Independent Boatyard.
Okay.
Because
okay.
The material was eaten up so bad, and not only hanging in the water, even way on top. So if the fumes get on top that high from the air, and we're taking it down our lungs,
yeah,
God help us.
Yeah. Well, Red, thank you for calling. We truly appreciate it, for at least for enlightening us. And I know about that experience because it's also on Cookie Point, and I've seen it on several other shorelines, other beaches. And let's hope that, we could only be thankful that Magens Bay, because of its location, that westward wind is not gone, and the sea, the tide, is not carrying it into Magens Bay and is going elsewhere, because Magens Bay, we would truly admit, if that was happening to Magens Bay with thousands, that beach is frequented by more tourists than any other beach. And that is considered to be our landmark, part of our branding. But, Red, I truly thank you, and I'll follow up with you on a phone call to see if I could get you on the station and talk a little bit about the marine industry and what we can do. And I also talk about the Marine Academy that should be in place. Okay?
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for calling.
I hope together we can do something about it. Positive.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Okay.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah, people have different concerns, and folks, as I indicated, this is open discussion for folks to be able to call in and broach whatever subject they want to broach on multiple issues that happen in here. I mean, I was venturing to talk about the road conditions, what are the conditions of the schools, are we comfortable with the prices of groceries and different things. But let me go to the telephone again. Good morning, you're on the air, connect the dots.
Yeah, Fonzie, morning. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you doing?
I coming to come. Listen, I want to talk about something. Is another problem with like WAPA. The services that we get from these people who sell cable, internet, and phone. On any given month, you're spending $200 to $250 a month for these services.
Yeah.
Yet the services is wishy-washy. When you get the internet, you're not getting your money's worth. You're paying $100 a month for it, and you're getting speed below what it's supposed to be. The cable showing the same thing every day, all the time, every time. And when WAPA go, the whole ball game gone asunder. I mean, we don't have no competition here. In the States, they're getting what we gain for half the money, plus more speed, from their service carriers. And it's like everything down here is a monopoly. You imagine $200 to $250 a month, Fonzie?
Yeah.
Paying for something way no good?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to do better than this here around this place. And then what will happen when the kids them go board through and they have to use the internet service? That's going to be another draw on it.
Yeah.
And you think it's bad now. It's going to be worse then when all them children have to use the services. So we got to do better than this. We need more competition in the place to drive these prices down. In the States, when you're paying for a phone, you pay about $40, $45 a month. You know how much we paying down here for a phone? And then when you go above the data, they throttle your speed. I mean, they got rockets here going in this place.
I thought
and they got to stop.
Yeah, I thought they had stopped throttling. They still throttling?
Man, Fonzie, oh, man, you think the step, man? I tell you.
Well,
and then you trying to save money, right? So you got smart TV so you could get internet TV. Just because you want to save some money because you can't afford it.
Yeah.
And the gear wishy-washy service is buffering all the time. I mean, we got to do better than this garbage we getting down here. We getting beat all over the place. Anyway, for saying, only somebody else come in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah.
Good morning. You're on the air. Connect the dots.
Good morning.
Oh, you got to turn your radio down.
Okay, I just turned it off. I got a proposal I sent to Santa Padre on July the 26th. And this is what it says. Santa Padre, I hopefully will be having a meeting this week with Mr. Roger Merritt, which I also got in touch with Mr. Zaki from Decoy, the head man for waste management concern, setting things up to be able to meet the people halfway towards collecting their useful, valuable, but yet toxic motor oil in an easier manner that will be easier for our Department of Waste Management as well to collect. Also, would like to talk towards making it easier to collect 15 different resources.
Okay.
Go.
I don't think the listeners are able to hear you clearly, and I know your challenge. I know who it is, but you're not coming through clear. So I don't think they're really grasping what you're sharing with the audience. Okay, because
have drop-off points for people at each gas station, so nobody has the excuse. I don't know where to go.
Okay.
It's out the way. I've got no time to get it. And when it comes to the fish nursery, I came up with my little invention that some professors at the UPI, Fish and Wildlife, likes. We could be working with the schools to help Mother Nature mass reproduce the better supplemental size than to release.
Okay.
We've all got to come together because this is not overnight fix. This takes time for things to come together, to grow, to time that we could,
Okay, wait. I am understanding you in pieces, and as I indicated, you're not coming through clear. Where the listeners, it's being transmitted over radio and also over social media, and it's not coming through clear. So I don't know if it has something to do with your phone as well, the apparatus or device that you're using, but you're not coming through totally clear. So I can't even regurgitate what you're saying so the public would be able to understand you. Okay?
Could I text you?
But I appreciate you calling.
All right. Could I text you?
Okay. Yeah. I try to afford everyone the opportunity, of this platform, to the opportunity to express themselves and indulge in different issues. And, I want to go back to what the previous caller, before this last one, was talking about the internet service. And yes, I agree fully with him. You go to Florida, for example, that may have Comcast. I've seen my sister in Florida who is paying for a complete package, less than $100. Cable, internet, and I believe something else she had. Internet, cable, and telephone, I think. And to see the quality of her service, just the quality that seemed to be fully fiber optic. And one of the arguments I have here, because a lot of the internet providers here in the Virgin Islands do what you call provide line of sight. It's based on line of sight that they provide a service. And it's actually shared bandwidth. And I know a lot of folks, including myself, that would ask questions because of the quality of service that you're receiving. And sometimes a lot of these companies are very dismissive. They try to dismiss you and not even entertain what you have to say, and telling you they could read from their meter inside of the office. They could see how much bandwidth you're using and all of that. And I can tell you, in my particular situation, I've been in a situation where the cable that they installed was faulty for months. And then it took one rep or technologist to come to the home and conclude that there was a problem with the plug that goes into the router. Okay, I understand all of that. But I've been paying for it all this time. I think you should be a little more compassionate and understanding and start to issue people credit. But then there's another issue that is compelling. If you have line of sight and you have fiber optic cable, fiber optic connectivity, and a person in the town area has 100% fiber optic, but I who live in the country have 80% line of sight and maybe 20% fiber optic connectivity. Why am I paying the same amount like the person that have 100% fiber optic connectivity? What they're going to tell you is that you're being provided an internet service, and that's how much it is for the internet service. But we reserve the right in that service to be equivalent to any other service that you are providing. So that becomes the argument. And I think at some point the PSC don't have much authority over them, but this is something that the Senate and everybody is going to have to weigh in on, because even the legislature have been affected. Let's go to the telephone line. Good morning, you on the air, Connect the Dots.
Good morning, Senator. How are you this morning?
I'm blessed. How are you?
Thank you. You were talking about this cable.
Yeah.
What's the name of this cable? Via? What is it?
Via is one of the providers. ISP, yeah.
That is one of the worst providers you could ever have. You'd be watching TV, and all of a sudden, it comes on. No service.
Yeah.
And then you got these different languages. So what is this you're paying for? Then you have to wait for somebody to come to reprogram it, and when you reprogram it, it still doesn't work. What do we do?
Well,
where do we go?
We're going to have to
start. And then we were talking
No, we're going to have to start writing the federal agency responsible for overseeing them to make sure that the quality of service, let them do an evaluation to determine if this value, the level of service that we get in the Virgin Islands is up to a certain standard.
Well, it's not. It's not.
Well, I know.
And it seems as though everything has gone to zero.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not like it used to be when you were in the Senate. Oh, no. Oh, no. You don't even hear the senators who are there addressing some of the things that's going on in this community. Oh, no. Entirely different. And you talk about the stench down here.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't breathe. It wakes you up in the morning. You cannot breathe. What's this?
I witnessed it. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think for folks that don't or haven't experienced it, they can't imagine what we're talking about until they experience it. Until they experience it, then they'll understand how horrible it is. And I continue to say, anything that you can smell like that is so pronounced, it's harmful to you.
Oh, yes. It smells like they have dumped a truckload of waste in your yard. Mm-hmm. That's what it is all about here in Red Hook. Okay? And nobody seems to care.
Yep.
Okay? But they want your vote. Okay?
And it's
but
gathering.
But don't come to me for none.
And it's gathering right there behind the sewage plant. that you have in there, right there in the lagoon, and that combination.
That's right.
I could only imagine what you guys are going through over there, because I pass there at least 3 times a week. And I remember calling the Waste Management Authority. I've even called one of the contractors to ask them. I said, I know you guys treating the plant, but do you actually share with them as well that the plant is being blamed for the horrible stench that is coming from that sargassum that they have no method to contain?
That's right.
Because they have to work. They have to work in proximity to that sargassum or seagrass, whatever people know it as, and it's horrible. That thing, I can't stand it. It makes me sick.
You get sick. People get sick. You can vomit. You actually vomit.
Yeah.
You're coughing. You're coughing. You're hawking from this stench. I've been living here for 55 years, and I could tell you this is the worst it has ever been.
Yeah.
Okay? I think you know who I think you know who it is now.
I tried to pick up the voice, but you don't have to call.
Who it is. They know me already. I don't have what?
No, I didn't want to call no name anyway, even if I knew.
All right.
I leave it up to my guests to disclose who they are.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is a shame that we have to go through all of this in a 32 square mile island.
Yeah.
And nobody cares anymore. Nobody.
Yeah.
And we talk about this all of the time. The people are talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's not me only. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah. How the island. Nobody's paying attention to property. There's nothing. Everything is what the people want on their property. They put it on. But it wasn't like that before. They couldn't do it.
Your radio is up a little too loud. Well, the mic.
It's worse than third world.
Oh wow.
It's worse than third world. Oh yeah. Virgin Islands no more. That's it. It's gone.
Well, the only response I have to that is we have to always hope that there are better days, that the quality of life, of life could improve, and I've always maintained that we have to have a government that is proactive and not reactive. We hear those terms all the time, but I don't think they truly understand what it is to be proactive.
Not at all, because they used to come around, look at the go around the different areas. You don't see nobody looking for nothing. Okay, so you do what you want to do on your property, and you ain't supposed to do it because there is a regulation. Okay, but no more. Done.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is garbage.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame because it is one of the. I've been all over the world, but ain't no place in the world like the U.S. Virgin Islands. Telling you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, we have our pitfalls, but I think we still maintain a certain pristine about us.
That's right. That's right. And only God.
Yeah.
Keep it that way. Only God. Okay? Because we don't have any concern absolutely anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for calling. I'm at the end of the hour, and I don't want the engineer to start signaling me and telling me out of time. But thanks for calling, and I'll be back here again Monday.
Okay, baby.
Okay?
Love you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
love you too. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Yes, folks, everybody have a concern about different things. I mean, I think we covered a lot of grounds today. We discussed a whole lot of stuff. If you notice, I didn't play any commercials today for the sponsors. I'm reaching out to a few more sponsors to bring aboard, and then I'll start dropping those sponsors in again. But I connect the dots, intend to hold. I'm waiting till this thing subside significantly, and I'm talking about COVID-19 and the Delta variant, to have a little social to bring people together. And I've already found a location to have it, but I'm not going to encourage folks gathering in one place and can't social distance to then contribute to the spreading of this, pandemic, this virus, or some people call it a bacteria that is being circulated right now. I could only pray for all residents to protect themselves. And, there's a whole saying, protect yourself in boxing. Protect yourself at all times. This is COVID we're fighting. So protect yourself at all times, because this thing is not playing. It's taking lives. We just never know who's next. And, of course, the immune system, they say that if you have a certain weak immune system, that you're more vulnerable. If you have pre-existing conditions, you're more vulnerable. So I can't understand or comprehend if a person know they have pre-existing conditions and they're not protecting themselves at all times. So folks, really get serious about this thing. I'm going to announce to you, later on down the line when Connect the Dots is going to have their social, and to invite every one of you to come out. Free food, but not free drinks. But we are going to be able to have a time that we could celebrate that this thing is done, over and done with. But I send prayers to every one of you, those who are in the hospital right now with COVID, to the BVI. You got people in the BVI now, a lot of people that actually, record numbers over there, that lost their lives to this COVID, lost this fight. And we pray for their families and wish that they're comforted by the memory of their loved ones over a period of time. And, they say people are living longer. But if you notice, among those who have died from the COVID-19, that it's a lot of older people that are actually dying. It's 70-something, even 60-something. And it seems to be going downwards now. That is going down to the younger ages. But we all have to sit down and pray from time to time and hope that this thing just go away. But this is a world crisis. Every nation, every continent is just going through a crisis and trying to figure out how they're going to mitigate this thing and protect its respective citizens. So we do the same here in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and we could only hope that people practice, all the precautionary measures, the social distancing, washing your hands, wearing a mask at all time, and maintaining that 6 feet distance. So until next Monday, this has been Adler Fonsi Donnerstog here with you on Connect the Dots. So next Monday, we'll share in advance what the topic is going to be. But I send a prayer out for each and every one of you. Have a blessed day and a productive week. God bless you.
People come, let we go. Turn up the radio. Turn up. This is the people show. No matter where we go. Connect the dots, family. Connect the dots, unity. Connect the dots, for you and me. Connect the dots. We want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in to Connecting the Dots as we look forward to hearing from you next Monday. Connecting people.
WSJR